So the upper paddock at Groton is generally one direction, counterclockwise, the way we're driving here around. Always in this same pattern. Always keeping a lookout for garage owners. Cars backing out of garages, people walking out of garages. Hey, yeah, no problem.
I'm gonna put the cone behind him.
Alrighty, coming onto the front straight at Groton. Coming out of the pits, always stay to the right, always stay to the right, all the way down to the first corner, just in case you have other cars coming through on hot laps. Even if you don't see people coming through, it's always good practice to stay on your side of the track through the first corner. Here you go, see what it's like out here. So a lot of cars will lay down rubber. All this black tar just shaves the rubber off the cars. It all stacks up out here on the outside of the track. So if you get off of the dark pavement there in turn one, there's going to be a lot less grip. A lot less grip. Same goes here for turn two. The black sealer ends. There's not a lot of grip out here. You can just hear the marbles hitting the wheel wells. Now this is another one where this is another place you really don't want to be. You look at the surface of the track here, the more right you go, the more off camber the surface is. So if you go all the way out here, there is much less grip than what you have on the inside. Partially because of the camber on the track, and partially because all this black stuff that they have laid down here at Groton has a ton of grip, so you always want to try to stay on that. Again, we have cars just shaving rubber off their tires. It's all collecting out here on the outside edge. So when you're out here, you just really need to be conscious about not applying power too aggressively, not steering too aggressively. If you look over to the left, there's a little bit of a pond there. You know, that's a place where you could end up if you carry too much speed into that corner. So always got to be careful. The jump, the famous jump. Again, if you look here, the whole track is covered in this dark stuff. So if you're out here not on the dark stuff, you're not going to have any grip. You're going to be picking up marbles. You're just not going to have as much grip on the surface. Gravel trap there on the right for people who carry too much speed into turn 6 there. This is another spot where you may think it's good to be next to somebody here, but when the track drops off here, it's downhill severely in the grass. It's just not a place you want to be. And I feel like I'm repeating myself over and over again, but you come out here and you're gonna have 25% less grip than what you would have on the dark pavement. So always try to stay on the sealer. The sealer is your friend. The sealer gives you clues about where you want to be on track. This is another place where it's blind. The track keeps turning to the right. So if you're out here and you're not pointed to the right, you run the risk of dropping a tire off into the grass there on the left. It's not a place you want to be. Again, this is another place where it's not gonna, the consequences aren't high for being offline because the speeds are pretty low, but you have this really long straightaway that you're gonna see. And if you're way offline there on the outside, there's no way that you're gonna get a good run onto the straightaway. Another turn that you just can't see. There's references here that we can talk about later, but again, you get off of this stuff and you're just not gonna have any grip and you're gonna be struggling to make the next corner. So let's get back on the proper line. So I'm basically just drawing a straight line. I'm trying to move the wheel as little as possible. A straight line to where those 3 cones are lined up at the end of the track, at the end of the straightaway. There's a few different clues you can use here. You can use the cones, but the cones change positions day to day. So there's other things you can look at. Look at the skid marks on the track. Look at this pavement change here. Look at the notch on the left of the pavement. Late apex. Late apex. You see all the dirt piled up there on the right? You want to be clipping it right at the end of the dirt. You got a ton of track here to use, on the exit, so use it all. Braking before the notch on the left, turning in at the notch. Again, you can't see your apex. And let the car go all the way out. Don't give it any extra steering. Again, we talked about the lack of grip here on the outside of the corner, but there's a ton of grip on the inside, so you don't need to swing out to set up for this corner. Stay tight, keep it tight all the way down through the corner, start applying power when it hits the bottom of the hill. If the car tracks out to the middle, that's fine. You have enough time to get it back over to the left to make this next right-hander, which in some cars is wide open throttle, in other cars you have to modulate a little bit. But again, look where I'm pointing. I'm pointing right at that lake, so you really got to be careful here. You really got to be careful not being too aggressive. So the track here over the jump actually kind of goes to the left a little bit after the jump. I like to use that because it gives me a wider entry into the corner. Therefore, I'm steering less, therefore I'm able to carry more speed. This is a fast corner, carry as much speed as you can through here, and this becomes a throwaway. So you end up tracking almost all the way out, and then just holding this all the way through the inside, And the goal is to be able to keep the car all the way to the right before you turn in here for turn 8, the toilet bowl. This is another important corner because it leads onto a quote-unquote straightaway. Again, in a car like this, in the BRZ, this is a straightaway. Use the sealer marks for context clues to judge your line. Let the car go all the way out. Don't pinch the wheel. Don't try to keep it to the right. Braking here before the 2 cones. Turning in earlier than you think before this pavement patch. Start turning in. Get that right front all the way down to the right side, all the way down. And back to power. This is a tough one. Some people like to look at the tree. When they start to see the top of the tree, they turn in. You can also judge your distance to the top of the track where it goes blind. As little wheel as possible here. Really got to be careful not to drop a wheel on the right. It has the ability to send you right over into the wall on the left. And I can just draw a straight diagonal line all the way to my braking zone for turn 1. I'm already thinking about where I want to hit the brakes. Eventually having the car all the way over to the left side. Again, this is a late apex. This is a fast entry, late apex. Fast entry, late apex. Turning in just after this sidewalk on the left. Slow hands on the turn in, fast corner, slow hands. Apex at the end of the dirt, clip the point there, and just let the car go all the way out. You have all this track to use. There's no reason to keep the wheel in any more than you need to turn the wheel. Brake before the notch, start turning in at the notch. It's an early turn in, it's a blind apex, but there's a lot of grip down at that apex. A lot of grip down at that apex. Again here, you don't need to go all the way back over to the right to set up for this corner. It's off camber and you will have less grip if you do that. So just go right out to the middle. You want to make sure you are on the curb. When the track flattens out at the bottom of the hill, let the car go out to the middle. Some cars you may need to bring it back over in order to late apex. This turn 4 with the ability to be on the power. Again, watch the left side of the car. You don't want to go out too far. You want to have the car nice and balanced for the jump. Give yourself a lot of room on the left. Widen this turnout as much as possible. Try to carry your momentum here. Track almost all the way out to the right side of the track. This is a throwaway corner. This corner, the only goal is for you to stay far enough right on the exits where you can get all the way back over to the right for the turn in for the toilet bowl. This is an apex. Let the car go out so that you can have a later apex and a straighter run over this crest. Some cars get really light here, wheel spin, back end steps out. So the straighter you can go over that crest, the better off you are. And brake where the track starts to straighten out. Turn in before the pavement change. Make sure you get your right front tire all the way down to that pavement change there. Let it go all the way out. Back up the hill. So before you get to the crest of this hill, you got to start your turn before you see the track. Another apex at the grass. Again, if you have a high horsepower car, you got to make sure the wheel's straight before you get to the power here. You could end up in a situation where you're in the wall over to the left. Do one more, good. Start your turn in as you cross the sidewalk. Aim for an apex that is at the cone. We're going to start a pit entry procedure. Stay all the way to the right here. Keep your arm in. Watch for traffic. Make sure you're going slow enough here on the inside line to where you don't end up tracking out in front of some of the traffic that's trying to get by you. Stay right, stay right, stay right. Get the car slowed down. Check your speed. 20 miles an hour.